Okay, so camera's up there. All right, so this is ITS. Wait, when does this class start? 3:15, yeah? Okay, so we're starting. Okay, so ITS 124, no, 128. And we're going to cover starting chapter 5. Today's February 14th, Valentine's Day. My wife reminded me of that this morning, so reminding all of you, in case you forget. Costco doesn't gouge you on flowers on Valentine's Day if you want to go there afterwards. And so today we're going to start covering loops. Loops, they're great, very important. And this sort of the last important thing that we have to do, that we have to cover before we've done decisions and then loops, and then that's really all we need to do, and you can write any program we want at this point. So I'm going to switch over to my screen here. Go here and share. And I think am I sharing my screen? I hope I'm sharing my screen. So over here. And so I'm just going to cover slides today. I'm not going to cover any kind of the sign-up sheet here. You at home, so you BM send me. So I don't know who BM is. So send me an email right now. Send me an email right now to tell me who you are. If you're at home, if you're watching at home, send me an email right now, and that way I know that you're watching. Yes.
BM is me.
Oh, okay, BM. You don't need to send me an email. I can see that you're there. So, oh, yeah, right. Rando M. Okay, great. Oh, that's good. You got two. Okay, so by the way, Brando, can you see the screen? So you're watching the screen, right? All right, perfect. God, that's good. You got it. I'm gonna pop this dude down there. And so we're gonna start here with the slides, and we're just gonna cover slides today. 34 slides. We should be. I hope we can get through all of them today. All right. So in this oh, let me do my slides because I need to be able to. You can still see it, right?
Yes.
Okay. So let me. Okay. So in this class, okay, make sure you sign in. In this class, in this particular chapter, we're going to cover a little bit more about list boxes. And remember last time I told you list boxes are kind of complicated because they're like a collection. But we'll get into that later. In fact, we just started covering collections. I didn't cover collections in 128 last semester, and today I started covering actually not today. Next Tuesday we're going to cover collections for the first time in 148, and they're kind of complicated. But anyway, that's one of the things that makes list boxes kind of complicated. So we're going to cover while loops, and while loops are just like if else's. You want to speak right now? Okay.
I'm probably coming in the middle of time.
No, you're not.
Do you need
Okay.
2 minutes to finish?
No, I don't. Let me just do this. Stop share. Stop share. And okay. So oh, Zachary, if you can. Is that you? Okay, good. Right. Okay. So you can. I think we're all set. So let me close out this.
I don't need any. I'm just going to talk, so I don't need hearing.
No, we're recording you because there's people at home. There's people at home, and we got to catch them.
So where do you want me?
So just stand right there. You just need to talk, right? Okay, very good.
Okay.
Go ahead.
Hi, everybody. I'm Lori Sakaguchi. I'm one of the counselors with the Business Legal Technology Education Department, and I see lots of familiar faces in this class, so that's a good thing. I came today to talk a little bit about counseling services in our department and what kind of services we can offer to you. So there are two of us in our department. Myself, I'm Lori Sakaguchi, and then Flo Ibarra is the other counselor, and we usually see students depending on their last name. So I have last names A through L. Mr. Flo has last names M through Z. But we're also available if you just want to stop by and say hi and ask some questions and get some assistance. One of the things that I really wanted to come and talk to you about today is that we've just recently signed an articulation agreement with UH Maui, and I'm sure you're like, what the heck is that? Well, an articulation agreement means that you have the possibility now of going on towards a bachelor's degree at UH Maui. It's an online program. It's different from the opportunities at UH West Oahu because the tracks at UH West Oahu are in information technology and in information security and assurance, so kind of like cybersecurity. The option at UH Maui is more business heavy. So accounting, information, and economics courses and business management type of classes, entrepreneurship. And then there are 2 capstone classes where you're going to be working in an internship in a business. So we now have 3 opportunities for you folks to study here, get some incredible information technology skills like your cybersecurity, your website, your programming, your database, data science type skills, cybersecurity skills, and then you can go on towards this bachelor's degree, which is going to give you even more job security in the future, plus advanced pay, and you'll be eligible for jobs, especially in the government, that you wouldn't be eligible for without a bachelor's degree. So lots and lots of opportunities here at KCC. Some of the things that we can help you with are things like looking at careers. So we have information through the Hawaii Industry Sector's websites to look at what kinds of jobs might be available, who are the companies who are hiring for these positions, what is average pay, what is beginning pay. We have information about the articulation agreements, what kind of classes you would be taking for those. But we also can help when things are not going so right. So if problems at home are keeping you from being able to be successful in class, I deal with all kinds of situations, everything from somebody's house burned down once. I had a student who had a kidney transplant. I have had students who got kicked out of their home. I've dealt with all kinds of different things. And Flo and I, our backgrounds are, we both have masters in counseling. That's kind of our first educational, but we kind of do everything else on top of that. So we just want you to know that we're here. No matter what is happening along this pathway through college, we're here to help. We're here to help you be successful. So our contact information is not on that bulletin board. It's on bright yellow papers around. I'll make sure that another one gets put in here. Bright yellow papers around in the other classroom. But we're right down that hallway off of the computer lab. And if our doors are open and nobody's sitting in the chair in front of us, please come stop by and don't be afraid to just say hi and ask questions. Does anybody have any quick ones right now? Yes.
Is the UH degree, is that 100% online?
So I've been looking at their the courses that they're going to be offering in the fall, because that's the first semester that we're going to actually have students there, and they're using Zoom technology in order video conferencing for classes. So it is that called asynchronous class when it's, or it's synchronous class. Synchronous class when you have to be there from 5 until 6. They are going to be bringing advisors and financial aid people over to Oahu 1 or 2 times a semester to meet with students also. But yes, my understanding is you do not need to go to Maui for anything, except he did say if you want to walk in the graduation ceremony, you have to go to Maui. So pretty amazing opportunity for you folks to be able to do. And because Maui also oversees Molokai and Lanai schools, they're used to doing distance education, and so this is not new for them. Good question. Anything else right now? Okay, so if you have other questions, I'll make sure that our contact information gets posted in here, and then, but you can also stop by anytime. Okay. Thank you. Thank you for the time.
Thank you.
Happy Valentine's Day.
All righty. Okay.
Still recording.
I'm still recording. Yeah. So those of you that came in late, you still have a chance to sign in. So just sign that sheet of paper there, and you'll get your extra credit point. Okay. All right, and it looks like there's nobody at home. Everybody online is here. So for those of you who are not here, live, you can still take the quiz because you can watch the recording. But you just don't get the extra credit. You just don't get that one extra credit point, which is not that big a deal if you're not getting it, because it's still pretty easy to. And there'll be other extra credit opportunities too. But so let's get back to where we were. Let me just share my screen here. Yes. Okay. All right. Okay. So yeah, these counselors. I don't know if you're. Okay, so you know, they don't have this at Manoa. Okay, these folks, and yeah, there are at Manoa. If you know, I teach at Manoa also. If a student has issues, I don't know. You know, they're kind of on their own. Here they got these great. There's 2 of them, and it's just for this department, and they're. The Flo, Mr. Flo Ibarra, it's Flo Ibarra and Lori Sakaguchi. Those are the names. They are, you know, these counselor types. They're kind of like minister types. They're just like really easy to talk to, not judgmental or anything like that. So
Some diplomacy.
yes.
A question. I'm sorry for assignment number 1. If it's been already created, resubmit.
Yes. So if you cannot resubmit, let me know. Email me, and I will make it so you can resubmit. Anybody who's got that chance, I do want after you get the first chance. You know, I mean, after you decide. Wait a minute. Wait. Is the assignment due yet? I think I extended all the due dates for this.
It was 2, and then you graded it, and then you extended it.
Oh yeah. So normally I don't extend it after I grade it, but what happened was I messed up, and I realized that probably some significant percentage of the class was actually not able to turn in their assignment because I went and flipped the thing, and there was no place for people to submit their assignment. So yeah. So now so you don't have to contact me. You can still submit it, and you can always resubmit as many times as you want to until the due date. And then after that, what I do is I usually grade it, and then if there's something that you messed up, like you submitted your project and I couldn't open it or something, then I'll just extend your due date and say, you know, try to submit it. If you submitted it and you messed up, you know, and or even if you didn't mess up so much, but you'd really like another chance to submit it, just email me, and I can go with Laulima. I can go in there and individually extend your thing and give you another chance. I don't want to ever make it difficult for you to do more work. Okay? That's the idea here. Okay, so very good. So let's okay. So we're talking about loops today. Let me turn this thing back on again. All right. So we're going to cover while loops. Oops. Turn this. Okay. While loops, which are very much like if statements. You'll see that. The plus plus and the minus minus operators. That's just a shorthand. Plus plus. These are done with. You tack them onto integers. You tack them either before or after an integer, and what it does is after the integer is used or before it's used, it's incremented by 1 or it's decremented by 1, and you'll see how that works. Okay, and then the for loop is more of a restricted loop where you say, okay, I got this, you know, I want to go through a range of integers starting at 1 and going up to 10 or something like that. Do while is just another kind of loop. It has to, these loops, they differ in when they do the check to decide whether or not to iterate again or to go through the loop again. And in this chapter, we're also going to cover how we access files. So in this chapter, we're going to learn how to store data into files, into text files, and we're going to learn how to read data out of text files. So that's kind of neat. And there's the open and save dialog boxes. You know, when you want to save something to a file, it pops up with this thing saying, you know, what's the name of your file or whatever. You do that kind of stuff. Or when you're opening a file, it pops up and says, you know, where's the file? And then this is kind of an orphan thing. They decided to throw random numbers in this chapter. C# provides a class, you know, a method or whatever where you can generate random numbers, and random numbers are very useful or necessary in certain applications. And then the load event handler, what that is and you may have come across it, where when your program starts up, as soon as as soon as it's ready to go, as soon as the form is so-called loaded and ready to start up, the load event handler is code that executes. So if you want some code, some initialization or something, like you want to set all of the radio buttons so they're off or something like that, you would put that in the load event handler, and it's not that big a deal. All right, so for list boxes, you can actually, well, you can do this with anything, but list boxes, there are some methods and properties that go along with just list boxes, and one main method is this .items.add. This is the list box name here, and then .items, which is items means the items in the list box, and then you can add items in the list box, and then this is the item that you want to add, which is usually text. In fact, it is a string.
So quotations.
Yes, yes. And then there's another method for clearing it all out. We want to start over again. That's this method. And you can also, the count. I got to put this someplace else. Oops, what did I just do? I'm still sharing my screen. Oops, nope, I don't want to do that. Try to put this over here. Is that what I have to do? The count is a property which returns the number of items that you have in the list. Now, last time I think we talked. No, I didn't cover list boxes last time. But the other way to use list boxes is just when you're putting a list box on your form, you can load up items that way too. You can just put them in at that time, and that's more like check boxes or radio buttons. You know, for those you have to say what the text is when you make them. You don't have to, but you do normally. So you know, often you use list boxes that way. Okay, so here's some sample code. This code is singular. You can add string literals. Okay, so here, yeah, just like you said, this is a names list box, and here you're adding the name Chris to it as the first one, and you're adding the name Alicia to it as the second one. And this is obviously some sort of button where you click on the button and it adds these two names. There should be a squiggly here. You can also add these other types as well, and I'm quite sure that converts to it implicitly converts to a string. Yeah, it has to implicitly convert to a string. Okay, fine. Here's the while loop. So the while loop causes a statement or a set of statements to repeat as long as this Boolean expression is true. Okay, so simple logic is while a Boolean expression is true, do the loop, do the statements. So the while loop's got two parts. It's got this Boolean expression part, and it's got this set of statements part. And if the Boolean expression evaluates to true, then it does the statements. When it's done with the statements, it comes back and it evaluates the expression again. If it's true, still true, it executes the statements again, keeps on doing this until something causes the Boolean expression to evaluate to false. Okay, well, what that means is there must be something inside here which is going to cause that expression to change. Because if there's not, it just loops forever. And you got to do something like, you have to do something else to stop your program. Now, fortunately, in Visual Studio, you can click on the stop button or you can whatever. But in the old days, you have to, sometimes you just have to turn your computer off. So the structure of a while loop looks like this. Looks very close to an if statement, doesn't it? It's just this word is different. And it operates like an if statement also. It's just like if, while, you know, it's like if or while this is true, do the statements. The only difference is when you're done, you go back and you evaluate the expression again. Whereas, of course, with an if statement, you don't. You just keep on going. So the first line is called the while clause. That's this thing here. And the statements inside the curly braces are the body of the loop. When the loop executes, the Boolean expression is tested. If it's true, the statements are executed. Each time the loop executes its statement or statements, we say the loop is iterating or it's performing an iteration or a pass. So, so we say that the while loop is a pretest loop. That means it tests the condition before it does anything. So that means it's possible that it doesn't do anything. It's possible that the first time it comes in, the expression evaluates to false, and then it just skips out, just like an if statement. So it's a pre-test loop, and as you might guess, there are post-test loops also. There's the do while is a post-test loop. Okay, so but we'll get to that. Inside the curly braces, there must exist a statement that defines the increment or the decrement of the count. Okay, so this here is an example of where we have this variable called count, which was initialized to 1, starts out at 1, and it loops, you know, it does the statements in here. And so there's got to be something inside here that's going to change that counter. So eventually it's equal to 5 or greater. So eventually this thing is false. And so it's, you know, this is very common. Okay? It's very common that you have something like this and you want to do something 5 times, or in this case it's going to be 4 times, where it's going to be, the first pass it's going to be 1, and then it's going to be 2, 3, 4, and then as soon as it gets to 5, this is going to fail and it's going to skip out. So this is incrementing. This is the way to increment the, or add 1. Increment means add 1. Decrement means subtract 1. So here's an example. This is the example where it's, you know, so you have a button on your form. It's called, you know, you click on it. This code executes here. It starts out by declaring this variable called count and setting it equal to 1. And this thing loops, and it displays out this message box saying hello. You got to click OK. And then it does it again, it does it again, it does it again. This time it's going to do it 5 times because it's less than or equal to. It'll so stop when the counter equals 5. No, it stops when the counter is equal to 6. So, which brings me to the point. I'd say the most common error. I mean, there's lots of kinds of errors specific to the code that you're writing, but in general, the most common error is what's called an off by 1 error. And it's this kind of mistake. where you put, is it less than or equal to, and you put the wrong thing and it ends up iterating one more time than you wanted to, or it iterates one less time than you wanted to. And so lots of times, if you got these kinds of things, you want to test for it. When you're writing code, one of the things I like about writing code is that you're generally not going to break anything by your program executing incorrectly. That's what I like about computer science rather than electrical engineering. I started out in electrical engineering, and and an off by one error can make the chip explode, and it just it's gone. You got to buy a new one, or whatever. You're held up. And whereas with code, you can always say, well, geez, I'm not sure. I'll just try it. And so you test some case. Oh, that's wrong. So then you change it to the other thing, and it works.
So in electrical engineering, failure is not an option.
Yeah, right. Failure is not an option. It's Apollo 13. All right. So in this case, okay. So an infinite loop is a loop that repeats until the program is interrupted. So there are few conditions. A typical scenario is the programmer forgets to write the code to make the condition false. So in this example, the programmer left out the count, the incrementing the count. That's very common in these while loops. In while loops especially, you generally put the thing that's going to cause the condition to eventually fail. You usually put that at the end of the loop. So you put the count equals count plus 1 usually at the very end of the loop. So oftentimes when you're writing your code, you write the code and you forget about that, and you just you're excited to see if it works, and you hit run, and you left that out. If you can get by with putting it at the beginning of the code, that helps, because you kind of get it over with. But oftentimes it doesn't make sense because you use it inside the loop. Okay, so there are these plus plus and minus minus operators, and so instead of writing this, you can write this. Just count with plus plus, or you can also write this. Okay, with the plus plus, it's one. You're adding 1 to it. If you're using this format, then this number can be anything, just like this number can be anything. So this is more like this. And this is a real shorthand way of writing it.
Plus plus is always 1.
Yes, always 1.
Well, plus plus.
And minus minus is always minus.
Okay, so minus minus just means minus 1?
Yes.
So does count have to be an integer?
Yes.
For plus plus?
Yeah, to use plus plus, minus minus got to be an integer. And there should not be a space. Shouldn't be a space. You'll see when we get into arrays, or sometimes with if statements and so on, the plus plus is handy, because it actually reduces the need for a statement. Here you still have a statement. Here you have a statement. Here you obviously have a statement. But sometimes you can get by just putting it in there. Well, in fact, you can put it here if you want to. You could put it here.
Plus plus, you don't have to worry about parentheses and order operations.
That's correct. Yeah, that's correct. If it's if it's right next to it, then it does it first. It does it before anything. No, there's when the plus plus, okay, the plus plus can go before or after. The plus plus is after. Then first it evaluates the expression using the count as it was originally, And then after it's done evaluating this expression, it does the plus plus. If you put the plus plus before, then it's going to do the plus plus first, and then it's going to evaluate it. Okay, so you got to be, you get it off by one error that way too. But you almost always see the plus plus afterwards. You rarely do use it beforehand. Oh, here we are. So there's the postfix mode, does it afterwards, and the prefix mode, it does it beforehand. And it can be either plus plus or minus minus, either way. So these are shorthands that were not around in the old days, but they came around in like the 90s in programming languages, and now they're just now all programming languages use it. Okay, here's a for loop. The for loop is a little different than the while loop. It's you have an it looks like this. You have an initialization expression, you have a test expression, you have an update expression. It's a pretest loop again. It does the test expression first. It's possible that the stuff in here is never executed. So get to an example here. So here's how this works. And here we see plus plus all the time. Sometimes you'll see plus equals 1. That works. But here, so we start out with count equals 1. So that's the initialization. The first pass, count is going to be equal to 1. This is the test condition. So it's going to execute 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and it's going to be done. Then after that's done, and then this is what you this is what the expression that is executed after the after the pass. So really, it's the first time you go in there, you do this. You test to see if this is true. If it's true, you execute this, and then you execute this, and then you test this again. If it's true, you execute it again, and then you execute this, and then you test this, and so that's the order in which which this happens. Now for the I hope nothing got disconnected, but is that somebody else's computer that made that noise? Okay. Now in a for loop, you don't have to have this increment by 1. You have to have it do something. But you can be decrementing. You can be by 2. You can do anything that changes the count. And if you should accidentally put count equals count plus 1 down inside here, it could mess it up more, because that's going to execute, and then it comes back around and it adds 1 again, and so on. So you kind of have to be careful. So if you decide first you write something with a while loop, and you have that incrementing statement in there, and then you decide, well, gee, I can use a for loop for whatever reason. You switch over to for loop, you got to make sure to remember to take out that incrementing statement, because that could mess things up. So the initialization expression assigns 1 to count. The expression that's tested, if it's true, it continues with this display message here. And then the update expression is executed, and the loop starts over again. The update expression, the counter variable, is typically incremented by 1, but it doesn't have to be. Here we're incrementing by 10, so this is gonna 0, 10, 20, 30, 40, like that. You can decrement down. Starts at 10, goes down to count. You see this has got to be different here. Yeah, because it's going to be, as long as it's greater than or equal to 0, less than or equal to 100. And we're decrementing. Okay, this is the do while loop. It's opposite of the while loop. The test comes at the end. So this means a post-test loop. So you're always gonna So this, with something like this, you are always going to execute the statements at least once. And there's times when you do that. So you execute these statements, and then at the end you test the Boolean expression. If it's true, you go back and do it again, and then you execute the statements again, test the Boolean expression. And this is the syntax. You have the word do up here, and then you have the statements while this. So it's kind of like the opposite, except for you have to have this do up here. So in this case, will you see the message box? You initialize a value, a variable called number equal to 1, and then you do this while the number is greater than 0. No, while the number is less than 0. So the answer to this is yes, you will see the message box. You'll see it once because the test doesn't occur till the end. Now this is gonna evaluate the false. So you will only see it. You'll see it exactly once, but you will in fact see it because there's nothing to keep this code from executing. There's nothing to keep it from executing the first time. It's not until you get to here which will keep it from executing again. And you see it's different than this, because in this case you'll never see the message box, because the first time this is tested, it's going to fail, and so it'll skip over it. All right, using files for data storage. 17 out of 34. Okay, I'll get through this. All right, so I guess we can go on to this. Okay, so sometimes programs need to save data for later use, and so you can write the data into a file, and there is 3 steps. First, you need to open up the file, which creates the connection between the file and the program. And then you need to either write the stuff out to the file, or you read stuff in from the file. And then when you're done, you have to close the file. So whether you're writing or you're reading, you got to close the file. Otherwise, it stays open and cause problems. And this processing the file, this thing can be a loop. You know, you can have an entire program in there and doing a bunch of stuff. So you open the file at the very beginning. You do a bunch of stuff. You do a bunch of calculations. Write some more. Do some stuff. You can only do one or the other. If you open it to write, that's all you can do. If you open it to read, that's all you can do. So if you want to read then write, you have to first open it to read it all up, in which case you probably read it into some variables or something. And then you got to close it, and say you want to write back out. You got to close it, and then you got to open it up again to write, and then you can write stuff back out again. There's 2 kinds of files. There's text files and there's binary files. The text files are files that you can open them up and read them with a text. You can just open them up, and you run your program, and your program's done, and you can go to the file manager and open it up, and using some kind of notepad or something, you can see what you've done. Or you can maybe open up Notepad, and you can initialize a file, throw some data in there, and then you can run your program to see if it reads it up, and so on. A binary file is different. It's like an image file is a binary file. When you open that up with a text box with the text editor, or you open it up with Notepad, it just looks like a bunch of gibberishy stuff. Cannot deal with a text editor. And we're only going to deal with text files right now. And so there's some classes built in. You notice that when when you create a new Visual Studio project, there's a bunch of lines up at the top. That's a bunch of system, this, that, and the other thing. And those are .NET classes that are provided for you that allow you to access all this stuff. And we're going to use the system.io set of classes. And there's what's called for writing a file, there's called a stream writer, stream. I always mispronounce it and say steam. And a stream reader. These are classes in this namespace. So there's methods that go along with these classes for reading and writing, like open, close, and so on. So up at the top, you'll see this using it out. Now, what's nice about Visual Studio, and you'll see this, is if you're okay. So normally when you start up a new project, this is not up at the top, or this is not up at the top. Okay, usually, no, it's not ever up at the top. And so what's nice about Visual Studio is you can just throw this in your code, and then it'll do a squiggly line underneath, and then you can right-click, and Visual Studio is smart enough to go and look to find some .NET class, .NET framework namespace, and it'll suggest this. It'll find these classes inside here, inside there, and it'll suggest it. You want to add this? And you go, oh yeah, right. You click on it, boom, it's up there, and then the squiggly lines go away. So to write data to a file, you start out by saying, so this is like you're creating a new variable, right? Like you're creating the new instance of a variable. You're creating a new instance of an object, and so you know the name of the variable is called output file, and the type, it's not int, it's not string, it's not decimal, it's stream writer. So you create this, you create a new instance of a class, of an object class. You're going to call it output file, and with the type is going to be a stream writer. And then so use one of the file methods to open the file in which you'll be writing the data. Should be. Sample file methods are this. Let's see if that's right. I think that should be okay. So use write or write line method. Where's some. Oh yeah. Okay. Oh, that's right. Okay. So this is actually another class. So you use these classes. This is for this is for writing. Okay. So if you use this one, that means you're opening up a file, and it doesn't matter if there's anything in that file or not. You open up the file, and whatever you write in is going to replace, if there was stuff in there, it's going to replace what was in there. Whereas if you use append, then it's going to attach it to the bottom. So if there was something in there, it'll add it. And then write and write line are these methods where the only difference is write just adds to it and does not put a new line. Whereas if you do write line, it actually writes it out and then it puts a new line. So if you write again, it's going to start on the next line. So here's how you would do this. Okay, so this is how you use it. First you have to declare this stream writer variable or object, and you're going to name it output file. And then you want to one way of thinking about it is you want to attach an actual file to your object that you declared, and this does that. Do you have a question?
Sorry. If you were to include happening, like C drive / whatever ends, include spaces and all that stuff, and then we interpret it appropriately.
Huh?
It would interpret in
Like if you want to put a path in front of this,
yes.
yeah, yeah, you'll do that. Yeah, you can do that. Yeah, in fact, you want to. In fact, when you first start doing this, you're going to want to experiment around, because first time you do this, you're going to wonder where the heck this is, and it's going to be way down in the debug folder. I mean, you got to go way down in there, and so yeah, exactly.
And you have to include the quotations, I'm assuming.
Yeah, right, and
especially if the path includes spaces.
well, yeah, you always have to use the quotations, and by the way, they're regular quotations, not the smart ones. These are the smart ones because it's just the vertical ones. Yeah, exactly. Here's never mind. This is different. Spaces. Yeah, I think spaces are fine. I guess we can experiment with them. So this will open up a new file for writing, because you're using CreateText, and this is the name of the file. It could exist or not. And so now from now on, when you use this output file object and the methods, like you use this method that comes along with this stream writer object, this is going to write these words in a line by itself into this file. So it's going to first write these words, and then in the next line it's going to write these words, and on the next line it's going to write these words, and then it's going to close that file. Once the file is closed, then you can go and look at it. So you can look at it while your program is running, as long as this thing was executed. So the writeLine method writes an item of data to the file, and then writes a new line character, which makes it go to the next line. And if you just use the write method, it's going to keep on writing, and then it's going to keep on writing on the same line until you do a write line. And the write line is going to write whatever is in write line, and then it's going to make a new file. I'm sorry, it's going to make a new line. And we'll experiment around this with this. We can append text instead of the appending. Just when it opens up the file, it's going to add to it, add to the bottom. So the previous code used CreateText, and instead, if you want, you can use AppendText. It creates a text file with the name specified. The file for CreateText, it's going to creates a text file with a name, and if the file already exists, it's going to erase it, start over again. If there is a need not to erase it, in other words, if you don't want to erase it in existing file, then you want to use AppendText. Yes.
Command to detect whether or not the file is already there and if this content is already in the file. To prevent from overwriting the file that's not important.
Yeah, there is. Definitely there is. I don't recall covering that last semester, though. Okay, I will look that up, and I'll make an example of it. This chapter is going pretty quickly, so I might have to fill it up with some stuff. So I'll look that up. You don't really need, you usually know. Specifying the location. If you want to open a file in a different location, you can specify the path. And this uses prefix character to. You got to use this @ character, so you only have to put 1/ to the 2. It's kind of messed up. This language does this differently than most other languages. And then reading, you create a stream reader object, and use AppendText to open it up. Yeah, you can do this to see if it, well, there's got to be a better way. And then read or read line, same kind of thing. Read line reads a line of characters up to the return, the whole line, and read just reads the next character or set of characters from the input stream. We are on 24. Reading from with loops. Okay, so let's just finish this slide and then we can. So reading a file with a loop, stream reader objects have a Boolean property named end of stream. So this is how you tell when you're done reading the file. So you put it in a while loop, and then while you're not at the end of the stream, you do something. Presumably you read the next line and you process it. And then you keep on looping, and eventually you're going to hit the end of the file. And end of stream will be equal to true. It'll switch to true, and then you'll know to stop. You can instead of testing if it's false, you can put this, as long as it's not true that we're at the end of the stream, it's just not prefix there, then you do what's in the loop. So that's why we had to cover loops before we cover reading and writing files, I guess. So we have to have this test condition to know when to stop. All right, so I think I'll leave it here. Knowing when to use open file dialog and save the file dialog is kind of tricky, depending on what you're doing, and so we can cover that next time. So are there any questions? All right, so no assignment yet, and you still have time to finish up your previous assignments. I think I gave you till February 21st, 22nd, I extended them all, so I'll do that when I mess up. I want to take it out on you guys. All right, so thanks for watching, and see you on Tuesday.
That was quick.
Quick, it's 4:11.